It's Pete from Cheap Homesteading. I'm in the garage this morning and we are going to work on a Yard Machines push lawnmower. Yard Machines is made by MTD. They make a bunch of homeowner style equipment. The motor that's on this is a 158cc Briggs & Stratton motor, which is very common on a lot of push lawnmowers. My wife's cousin brought it to me and he said that it would run for a little bit and then it would die. So I just took a look at it and I'm going to show you what I found. So this is the Yard Machines 158cc push lawnmower. It's a Briggs & Stratton motor. And you know what? He said that it wouldn't keep running. I thought, oh, that's easy. I'm going to take off the carburetor, we're going to clean it up and get it running. And after I looked at it, when you push it, there is a crack in the primer ball. I find when there's cracks in the primer ball, it doesn't suck the fuel properly out of the tank. So that was a problem, and you can't really replace that. The carburetors are plastic, so they're kind of hard to service. But I looked on Amazon and I found an actual carburetor for it, and it was 40 bucks. He thought it was probably worth just throwing a carburetor on it. So I ordered it up, and I was kind of surprised when it showed up. I was expecting an aftermarket carburetor, but it is actually a Briggs genuine part. So that is the part number of the carburetor that fits on this lawnmower. So basically we're going to do a straight swap on the carburetor, clean out the fuel tank, and we're going to see if we can get this thing running. We're going to remove the air cleaner. We're going to have to clean that out. So basically what we're going to do is unbolt the fuel tank. The fuel tank holds the carburetor and everything. So when you unbolt the fuel tank and take it off the engine, it'll all come off in one piece. And then we're going to unbolt the carburetor, clean up the fuel tank, and just put the new one on it and throw it back on, and it should run. So we're going to start taking the fuel tank off. Okay, so we're going to remove this bolt first. There is one more bolt in here. Okay. This little vent comes off. You have to unhook this linkage. There you go. The fuel tank and the carburetor is off. Okay, so these carburetors are practically disposable. You can't really get into them to clean them up very well. You can't take the needles out, and they do that on purpose because they don't want you to mess with the emissions of the motor. Gone are the days you can just clean the carburetor out and then the thing will run for another good long while. At least on the new stuff anyways, you pretty well have to replace it. That's the world we live in. You're going to have 5 screws. You unscrew them. Lift the carburetor out. There's a pickup and there's a screen. This is your main jet. And it sets into the carburetor hole. That is kind of what your bowl would be. That's fuel that's just sitting inside there. So we're going to clean up the outside of the carburetor. We're going to dump the fuel out and then make sure the inside of the tank looks really clean. It does look, there's no dirt in there. So we're just going to dump it out, clean it up, and put the new carburetor on. Okay, so I'm going to dump the fuel out. We're just going to wipe the tank off. Going to look into the tank. It looks really, really clean. We're gonna blow off the inside here. I wanna make sure this area is all clean. I don't want any dirt on there at all. So this is a Briggs & Stratton 495 477 carburetor. So it comes with the new carburetor, and it comes with a gasket, a diaphragm, and a new screen. So we're going to open this up. I'm going to set this down here. Be careful with the gaskets. Here is the diaphragm, and here is the screen and the spring. So you get your carburetor, and your spring goes right on to this little tab inside here. You're gonna lay your fuel pump, you're gonna lay down your diaphragm on top of the fuel tank, very gently. And then you'll get the gasket, and it'll go on like this. You get everything lined up. You get that little screen, and you pop it over here. So now you are going to get your carburetor, and you're going to gently put it through. And you line up the screen pickup, and you set it down. And you look down there, all the holes should be lined up through the gasket and the diaphragm. So you start all the screws and leave them just a little bit loose. And then once you got all the screws started, you're going to go around and just tighten them up. Gently. Don't go too crazy with it. The carburetor is plastic, so you don't want to break it. So there you go. You got the new carburetor on the tank. Here's the new gasket for the air cleaner. So now we can install it. I'm going to wipe off the crankcase vent. We're going to stick that on here first. So now we're going to install the throttle linkage onto the governor rod. You stick it on there. There you go. So there is your crankcase vent, and there is your intake. You kind of have to line up both as you shove it onto the intake. It's on the intake, and my crankcase vent is installed. We're going to install the long bolt that holds the tank on. Get it started. And the bolt that comes in right from the end. We'll get it started. Okay, that's tight. That one's tight. Okay, so let's see if it'll start. It says 3 pumps. So there you go, the carburetor fixed it up perfectly. Runs really, really good. I'll run it for a little bit longer before I give it back. But other than that, this job is done. So you guys have a good one.